Hello, my name is AJ Goldsby. I'm a life master from Pensacola, Florida, and I'm continuing my series today on the World Championship match that was played last year, trying to wrap this up. And I'm not going to give you a lot of prologue here, other than just to say this is a World Championship game. Magnus Carlsen is white, Viswanathan Anand is black. This was game number 9. It was played on November 20th, 2014. Without any further ado, we're just going to go ahead and dive right into the game. Carlsen starts off e4. I'm not sure why he chose e4 rather than d4. He plays just about all openings. E4 obviously is as good as anything else. He would have to speak as to why he chose this particular opening for this particular game. Anand plays e5, which is a rather unusual choice for him. He's been playing the Sicilian quite a bit lately. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, knight f6, castles, and now we're going to get into the main line of the the Berlin Wall, the Berlin defense for the Ruy Lopez or Spanish game. C67 is the informant code, and this is the main line. And basically what Anand is doing is engaging in a little bit of psychology. He's forcing Carlsen to play against himself. In other words, Carlsen is a great advocate for the black side of this position, so I guess Anand, not having any other ideas, decided to play this line, and maybe in the hopes that Carlsen would overreach. Knight takes e4, d4, knight d6, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, d takes e5, knight f5, queen takes d8, king takes d8. This is the main line for this line. I don't really like the line. I don't like the line with the queen exchanges. I would never exchange the queens too early. It just seems to kill the game, and black seems to be doing just fine with the black side of this line. Of course, this line was first seen at the World Championship level in the Kasparov-Kramnik World Championship match in 2000. And if you want to see a good MCO, you can look this line up in MCO 15, page number 47, columns number 8 through 9, and all applicable notes. But there's been quite a number of games played lately in these lines, and I'm going to reference a few of those. Now, white's next move, he plays h3. I've liked this line for a long time. I spoke out and said I like this line myself. I played it myself as white in a couple of tournament games, once against the master. That game was a draw. But anyway, I've liked h3 for a long time. It's just now becoming popular. h3 is actually a very useful move. It prevents pieces coming to g4, gives the king luft. And I think the main thing that it does in this position is it allows white to keep all of his options open. So that's another reason I like that h3 move. Another line is knight c3. That's the main line. King e8, h3, bishop e6, rook d1, bishop b4. And one of the games I found in the database was the Grandmaster game H. Stephenson. He's a 2574 Grandmaster. And Kirill Georgiev, K. Georgiev, was black. He's 2669. And this game was played in the 11th individual European Men's Championship in Rijeka, Croatia in 2010 in round 9. And in that game, Georgiev won in just the game in 31 moves. Stephenson obviously made something of a couple of mistakes there. But still, it was a nice game by Georgiev, and that was one of the few games that I could find recently in this line. So I just thought I would reference that game. But going back to the actual game, after king takes d8, white played 9 h3. Carlsen played the move 9 h3. King e8, that's a very useful move for black. Very oftentimes, you don't want to be on the same file as the d file. A lot of masters would put the bishop on d7 but leave the king on d8. But a lot of times that bishop's found to be in a pin. So king e8 is a very useful move. Knight c3. And now another idea here for white would be rook d1, bishop e6, knight c3. With a nice plus for white, that's an idea that Deep Fritz 14, one of the engines that I analyzed with. And, I could go into a deep analysis of it, but I won't. But just suffice to say that white has a very tiny edge, but we also know that black's position is extremely durable and has held up well at the Grandmaster level. But in actual game, after king 8, white played 10 knight. Magnus Carlsen played 10 knight c3. And now Anand plays h5. That's a useful move. That's a good move. A lot of times the masters, when the knight's on f5, they like to move h5 because that prevents the knight from getting kicked with g4. One of the points with h3 is that very oftentimes, if black isn't careful, g4 can come in with great effect. Another move here, too, that's commonly played is a lot of times they play h6, which is also a useful move for black because it keeps all of white's pieces, especially the knight and the bishop, off the g5 square. So, but anyway, Anand plays h5, knight e2, b6, rook d1. These moves, now rook d1, Carlsen thought for the first time there for several minutes. Prior to this, he had not been thinking, neither player had used much time at all in the opening. That was the first major think of the game, was rook d1, bishop a6, knight f4, bishop back to b7. And, there is another game that I wanted to reference out of the database was the game after, instead of bishop b7, rook d8, bishop to e2, knight b4, knight takes d4, rook takes d4, a4, bishop c8, a5. A very long game was played in 2012 rather, at Leon, and that's in Spain. And it was between El Dominguez Perez, he's a 27-26 player, and Rustam Ponomariov. He's rated 2741, at least at the time this game was played. And again, that game was played in 2012. Dominguez Perez, Lernier Dominguez Perez, won that game as white. It was 1-0 in 66 moves. Very long game. I haven't analyzed it in detail there, but basically I just think Perez just sort of wore Ponomariov down and basically outplayed him. But I'm not going to analyze all of these games here because if I did, I'd never finish this video series. But anyway, I just wanted to reference that game because that game is in the database, and it seemed to be an important game by theory. I also have a DVD on that this whole line, and that they mentioned that game on the DVD. So anyway, here after bishop b7, white plays e6. That's a nice move. I don't think you play that move if you're trying to win, but you have to remember that Carlsen doesn't need to win. It's just a simple fact of life of these short matches that when you get ahead, a lot of times you can play for a draw. Sad but true, but that's just the reality of the situation that we find ourselves in. That Carlsen was ahead by 1 point at this point, and he doesn't need to win another game. He can simply continue to draw and win the match because he's up +1 at this point. So anyway, he doesn't even need to go to the tiebreakers. White plays e6. That's a nice little game, nice little move just to break up white's position. And, now black probably, if he wanted to play on, might want to play the computer's idea of f takes e6, knight g6, rook g8, bishop f4. That's extremely favorable, I think, to white. But it's the only chance really to duke it out. I think things get very nasty. And, but it's the only way to prolong the game because now after bishop d6, after e4, bishop to d6, that's what, Anand is black actually played here. And now basically white is going to force a very quick end of the game, with a perpetual check. He's simply going to go play e takes f7 check, king takes f7, knight g5 check, king f6, knight e4 check, king f7, knight g5 check, king f6. All these moves are pretty much forced. Black doesn't want to go back to the first row. He just, give white too big an advantage. Knight e4 check, king back, knight check, and now here they agreed to a draw. That pretty much concludes my video on game 9. It really wasn't, it's not a very long video, which I don't mind at all. It's not that important of a game. I mean, it's an important game for theory, and it was an important game for Anand, but, lengthwise and content-wise, not a lot happened. Basically, Anand was unable to find a way to make something happen, to create a really messy position, to create a position where he could drag the play on forever. And basically, Carlsen very quickly just cut the Gordian knot and found the line, which basically forced the game. Either Anand had to accept a huge disadvantage, or he had to play for allow this draw. And I guess he chose to allow the draw rather than to get a extremely inferior position. That concludes my video for Game 9. Thank you for watching my video. If you like my videos and like my web pages, and you'd like to support my efforts to bring you the very best in chess that I am able to bring you, both web pages and videos, please go to the PayPal website. That's www.paypal.com, and make a contribution under my email address, which is LifeMasterAJ@yahoo.com. Again, thank you for watching my video, and have a great day.